Good morning, everybody. It's September 2nd, 2025, and this is Coffee and a Weather Map with Jeff. The South Texas forecast. As I've said yesterday, I'm kind of looking at changing up the format so I can do things a little bit more concentrated on each area that I tend to forecast for, which would be South Texas and Lower Michigan. So let's get on into the forecast. Well, first the analysis. As we usually do, looking at the upper air maps, we still have some northwest flow that's over South Texas, and but it has been fairly light. We're not seeing a whole lot. The main trough axis now is kind of just passing through East Texas, Southeast Texas, and it's kind of pushed a lot of the showers and thunderstorms off the coast, most of which are being driven by this stationary front that's just kind of hanging out there in the Gulf. You could even make an argument that it goes up a little bit further into Texas itself and out into the brush country. But the wind flow is pretty light, so it's kind of hard to discern that from there. Otherwise, you see that there's another front to the north, another cool front trying to push down through there. At least in the next couple of days, it's not going to get there. There is another reinforcing shot that might make things get a little further south later on in the week. To kind of take a look at what's going on around in the tropics, since that can have a factor for South Texas. There is a tropical wave that's out here to the east that has come off of Africa yesterday. It is moving in towards the west, as they typically do this time of year. You can see all of that front that's kind of hung up there, goes across Florida and then off into the North Atlantic. Just to kind of take a look, that wave is looking pretty healthy. There's a little bit of turn to it. You get some good clusters of thunderstorms around there. We can kind of zoom in on it there. And that's the one to watch for here coming up. So much so that the Hurricane Center has now increased the chances to high, which is 70% or better, that there will be development within the next 7 days, and it's turned it to a 30% chance in the next 48 hours. Like I said, it does look pretty healthy right now, and it's just coming off the Cabo Verde Islands. It's still somewhat disorganized, but it is starting to look pretty healthy now. If anything were to happen, this is a 15-day outlook. So as you see, everything gets started down here off the Cabo Verde Islands. And most of the model ensembles members want to take it up to the northwest and continue up and get maybe at least an idea there. That little tiny dark mark there behind some of those members is Bermuda. That's about the furthest extent of the western track for the most part. I think a lot of what's going to happen is you notice a lot of these storms in the Great Lakes and along the East Coast, they're going to kind of stall out here. There's a trough that's going to try and continue to move that, and that might help push things, keep things pushed off to the east of the Atlantic seaboard. Now, the one other thing to kind of keep in mind is that a southerly track would be something that could be of interest for South Texas at some point. But remember, this is a 15-day forecast right now with all these lines, starting back here and then getting all the way out here to the Lesser Antilles. So, and even then, it's not the best favorable track so far, because you can kind of see that's maybe 30 to 40 knots for wind is about as high as it gets at this point. There are a few places out here. Mostly this front and is the main driver of any of the lows and things going along. It looks pretty weak. There is one little wave, and I'm going to kind of dismiss that for the time being, that tries to move up, and it's the only one. And so and then there's another one that goes right up over South Texas. So not things that I will entertain at this point. That is just too far out there. As a older forecaster once told me when I worked at AccuWeather over 30 years ago, it was like, that's just lines on paper, and that's kind of what it is. The models can dream up whatever they want. All right, so let's jump into the forecast here for South Texas. We're looking at high temperatures, mostly below 100, except for this northern part of the brush country, probably right around 100 degrees. You can see Cotulla's at 99, Laredo's going to be at 99 today. The rest of it, all the way out here to the Middle Texas coast, is going to be in the upper 80s to lower 90s across the coastal bend. For tomorrow, Wednesday, we are looking at temperatures getting a little warmer, especially out to the west. The 100-degree area spreads out across most of the brush country. Some of it's getting into the coastal plain here, right along, you know, that Beeville to Alice to Falfurrias sort of area. That is going to be right around 100 degrees. And then, of course, the Middle Texas coast, always right around the upper 80s to lower 90s across that whole region. And then Thursday, we get into the heat again, especially out in the west. We're looking at 100 to 105, pretty much from Beeville to Mathis to Kingsville to Falfurrias sort of idea and westward. And then, as typical this time of year, we have lower to mid 90s in the coastal bend with the upper 80s along the barrier islands. Mean temperature, mean temperatures, it's the min temperatures, pretty much in the mid 70s, except for right along the coastal bend where it's going to be right around 80 degrees. And that's the same thing for Thursday and for Friday morning. So each day's low temperatures the next morning looks like that's what's going to end up being. All right, let's give the probability for the precipitation. I only included the SPC, WPC outlook on this one because it's the only time we actually have a fair amount of precipitation, and it's the only time that SPC or WPC put anything on here. In this case, it's SPC with the general thunderstorm outlook. If we zoom in a little bit here, you can see that it goes down through the Victoria Crossroads and across the southern part of the brush country out to Laredo and places down into deep South Texas. And that kind of mimics the same way that we have that 40% or better line here going through for the 24-hour precipitation, which ends at Wednesday morning. Most of this will be today, probably later this afternoon. And just to kind of show you what's going on here, here's the Corpus Christi radar this morning, and we'll just kind of set that in motion. You can see that there isn't a whole lot onshore currently. Most of that is forming along that frontal boundary down there, and it's offshore. That will change as things heat up over land. In fact, there's a few showers and thunderstorms, just mainly showers that are out there in the brush country. That will probably get going a little bit more here, especially along that southern area from about Laredo to about Alice and south here a little bit later today, before everything kind of moves on to the south. All right, back to this slide presentation. So then for Thursday morning. For tomorrow, not Thursday morning. For tomorrow into Wednesday night, we are looking at most of it just isolated showers right along the coastal bend. Everything else off to the west looks like it's 10% or less. And then it continues that way with pretty much all the real forcing mechanisms out of the area. I know I just used one of those jargon terms, but there's nothing to create any real showers or thunderstorms, so we're at less than a 10% chance everywhere in South Texas. If you are planning on going out to the beach, even though there could be thunderstorms, just be on the lookout especially. But I will say that there is a low rip risk across the beaches of South Texas and deep South Texas today. Well, that does it for Coffee and a Weather Map for the South Texas version. I hope you have a good day. Just keep in mind that if you have any questions, you can always leave a comment here on my Facebook, Instagram. I'm expanding out to TikTok now. Ooh. And on my YouTube channel as well. Oh, and don't forget X. So I'm covering most of the bases. Let's just go out and have a great day. Thanks.